So welcome everybody to our conference on technology, AI, bots and psychotherapy after COVID. What future for psychotherapy in a digital age? My name's Del Loewenthal, and I'm chair of the two organisations that have put this conference on. One is the Critical Psychotherapy Network, which is a group of psychological therapists, psychiatrists, GPs, and service users, psychotherapists from various modalities who meet every couple of months in Hampstead to help each other. And the other organisation is SAFPAC, the Southern Association for Psychotherapy and Counselling, based on the other side of the river in Wimbledon, where we carry out research and train people in existential-analytic psychotherapy. So the purpose of this conference is to explore what we can learn with regard to what is happening and what is going to happen in our increasingly digital economy regarding our future psychotherapeutic theories, research, methods and practices. So if I can see if I can share some content with you. So hopefully you can everyone see that? Yes? No?
Yep.
Yes, yep.
Great. Okay. Yes. So of course that's a picture generated by putting these words into one of these bots. So we're inviting you as clinicians, theoreticians, and researchers to consider particularly three aspects. First, the effects of our information economy on our brains, consciousness, inner world, and the way as psychotherapists we conceptualize. Secondly, the promise of autonomous psychotherapy programs that integrate therapy with actual relationship experiences of the individual user. Where are we with these? Where might we be with them? And thirdly, whether traditional psychotherapy can also provide the best antidote to the ills of our digital age. Well, in order to facilitate such explorations, our day will not only include time from our speakers reporting on the cutting edge of these important developments, but we'll also have some space where as participants we can explore in small groups where we are, where we might be going in ourselves and our therapeutic practices in this digital age. Well, our title of the conference is Technology, AI, Bots and Psychotherapy After COVID. What future for psychotherapy in this digital age? So to take each of these terms in turn, with regard to technology, I want to give very briefly some philosophical and socio-technical perspectives. So why start with the concept of technology? Well, this means ongoing concern in our media as to how technology through the internet, AI, bots, etc., not only enhances but can also be detrimental to the extent we no longer are able to control such technology taking over our lives. We'll shortly be hearing the latest research on such questions in relation to psychotherapy. But as I say, let's have a look at just some broader perspectives. Questions of the pros and cons of the use of technology in psychotherapy have been raised long before our digital age. Hopefully, it doesn't stretch the imagination too much to consider that similar technological concerns could also be true regarding our very psychotherapeutic theories and psychotherapeutic research when they're just seen and used as techniques to be applied. And this isn't only just to do with the more obvious therapeutic manuals, but all are indeed the word trainings. So when are the ways we use psychotherapy theories and research methods detrimental, and when do they enhance the lives of our clients and indeed our own lives and our own well-being? So technology can clearly seem to help us. I mean, my street's WhatsApp has produced all kinds of good stuff. But there seem to be also some problems. And in fact, if one goes back to a definition of therapy, therapia from Plato, he says that, well, scientific and technical thinking, yes, they are important, but they need to come secondary to the human soul. And we need to always be reminded of this. And in fact, Heidegger reinforced this, or even more so, his warnings against technology. He thought Plato hadn't gotten far enough in looking at the effects of this on our very being. And he had this line, this important thing: everything functions, and the functioning drives us further and further to more functioning, and technology tears people away and uproots them from the earth more and more. So have we in some ways forgotten what it is to be human? Have we been overtaken by technical thinking and lost our sense of being? And so what hope now, when even more in a digital age? So one of our initial questions then is the effects of our information economy on our brains, consciousness, inner world, and the way as psychotherapists we conceptualize. So isn't it that once technique takes over, we become subject to technique? That's different, I think, to being open to being subject to language and letting thoughts come to us. We become more automatons. Here we wrongly lose control. We're no longer thoughtful, not through our, we can't just let things come to us through our mind, body, and soul, both as people and psychotherapeutic practitioners. Then technical thinking rules us. You get it in some of our trainings, where we have to show more obviously that every thought we have has come from the original theoretical guru. But it's how our clients are also taken over by this technical encroachment. So their ability to think and allow thoughts to come to them diminishes, as does their and our potency and potentiality. Perhaps we should just stay with William Blake, yeah, and look more towards poetry. Well, what of our next word, AI bots, and our question about this promise of autonomous psychotherapy programs that integrate therapy with the actual relationship experiences of the individual user? Well, I've yesterday learned on very good authority, in other words, from my son, that young people increasingly communicate with each other, not by speaking, let alone person to person, but by text. But couldn't an AI bot be better as a psychotherapist texting back than a person who is a psychotherapist? Plus, the bot is, unlike a therapist, in one's pocket 24/7. Well, it turns out this idea of bots is not that new. If we only go back a little bit, we've got Eliza, a very basic Rogerian psychotherapist chat box, which was developed around the mid-1960s. Well, Eliza was one of the first, what they called chatterbots, later clipped to chatbot. It was also an early case for the Turing test, a test of a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to or indistinguishable from that of a human. Well, by today's standards, Eliza fails very quickly with complex questions. But there have really been different means of doing therapy even before Eliza. 3 books I want to mention to you. One is The Distant Cure by Hannah Zevin. So Hannah Zevin argues that therapy has long understood itself as taking place in a room with 2 people engaged in person-to-person conversation. And yet she points out that starting with Freud's treatments by letter, psychotherapy is operated through multiple communication technologies and media. These have included advice columns, radio broadcasts, crisis hotlines, video, personal computers, mobile phones. In The Distant Cure, the therapist, broadly defined, can be a professional or untrained strangers or chatbots. And Hannah proposes a reconfiguration of the traditional therapeutic dyad as therapist and patient, now to one that is a therapeutic triad of therapist, patient, and communication technology. Indeed, she argues it was never just a talking cure, it has always been a communication cure. Well, what have we got then in terms of AI bots that are available? Here are some that are currently around in the USA and or UK. So we've got Ybot. That's a chat bot that uses CBT techniques to help people manage their mental health. It's designed for daily therapy sessions and specifically targets symptoms of depression and anxiety. Wysa is another mental health chatbot that uses CBT to help managing, explain mental health. Yupa is a mental health chat box that also uses CBT, but also plus positive psychology techniques to help users manage their mental health. There are claims here that it's one of the market leaders in digital therapeutics, helping users, they claim, deal with anxiety and depression through smart AI and research-backed interventions. But it's still possible, you may be pleased to know, to have human therapists as alternatives or working with therapy chatbots. So some of the apps combine AI chatbots with the option to talk at a price to mental health care professionals or therapists. Whereas some apps focus solely on the live chat with a therapist experience. Many are now included in insurance plans. Some are offered at work as part of EAP programs. Well, human-based therapeutic mental apps include TalkSpace, which connects users with a network of licensed therapy providers, each with a different speciality. And it has services ranging from couples for teens. They claim almost 60% of users experience clinical significant changes within 3 months. Another one is Ginger. Ginger offers text and video-based psychiatry sessions, and it with evening and weekend availability, and it focuses on behavioural health coaching, therapy and psychiatry. It's available to organisations, individual members and healthcare providers. 7 Cups of Tea is a mental health app which claims to have, I can't believe this, 300,000 trained and certified listeners, specialising in things like addiction, grief, anger management, depression, anxiety, impulse control, eating disorders, chronic pain, etc. It's a free service. Although if you want to talk about issues to a trained sympathetic ear and advice, there's a paid service. MindSpa is mostly a content-based app with artificial courses and tasks on improving your mental health. And then there's Bing, which perhaps more people are familiar with. It's not a usual therapist to begin with. However, you can convert it into a chat box therapist. You just need to put in the words, act like my psychologist and therapist, apply all the best practices in your response to offer great therapy. So maybe we should call this conference, Let's Make Psychotherapy Great Again. This approach, though, doesn't only apply to Bing. You can do this on ChatGPT, Bard, and so on. One of the most popular ones is Replica. And Replica can be seen as just for fun. However, if you start chatting with it, you can share your problems. It offers its advice. It's regarded more as a companion come therapist. Your companion also takes notes of important points and keeps them in memory. In addition, you can send voice notes, attach images or video, etc. There was an article in The Guardian recently on this called Uncharted Territory. And it talks about an AI girlfriend. And it claims to control it you can the app claims you can control it all the way you want to. Yeah, and there's this AI girlfriend app, Eva AI, where you can connect with a virtual AI partner who listens, responds, and appreciates you. When you sign up for the Eva AI app, it prompts you to create the perfect partner. So you've got options like hot, funny, bold, or shy, modest, considerate, or smart, strict, rational. It will also ask you if you want to opt in to send explicit messages and photos. Now, Replica faced a backlash from users recently when it removed erotic role-play functions. I only have the words here. A move which many of the company's users found apparently akin to gutting the rep's personality. There are also side markets here. So somebody has launched an AI girlfriend app trained on her voice and built an extensive following and YouTube library. So according to analysis by, there's a venture capital firm called AI16Z, the next era of AI relationship apps will be even more realistic. They say that there's a proliferation of AI bots apps replicating human relationships. This proliferation is just the beginning of a seismic shift in human-computer interactions that will require us to re-examine what it means to have a relationship with somebody. They say we're entering a new world that will be a lot weirder, wilder, and more wonderful than we can ever imagine. Well, when you see some of these existing bots, they don't look so imaginative and impressive. I won't go through here, but you can just maybe look at those yourself. So I find really interesting, it's not on psychotherapy, but I would recommend, is this one, Hyperconnectivity and its Discontents. This considers digital hyperconnectivity as a defining factor of our time. This is the Silicon Valley dream of universal connection, the dream of connecting everyone and everything to everyone and everything else, everywhere and all the time, which is perhaps rapidly becoming becoming a reality. Now, the author, Brubaker, traces the transformation of the self, social relations, culture, economics, and politics. And I haven't got time to go through this much now. But with regard to the self, the argument is, if we come to form ourselves from the outside, what happens when the outside is a digital one? And what impact has this on our relationships with others? There's all questions of identification here, and how the digital self becomes a new form of currency. But that currency calls for obligation to be produced and to be attended. And it's on these, where they seek behavior. These platforms are brilliantly engineered. They exploit our psychological vulnerabilities, capture and sustain our attention, dysregulating and reorganizing our time and manners in many ways. Perhaps we might look at how this does it to ourselves today. Another aspect he looks at is culture. Sorry, it's social relations. And here, you know, we estimate our posts for online performance of self and compare them. Yeah. There's the questions of culture. There's always been that hope that through this sort of internet, we might encounter culture more than ever, but we also get engaged with it less than ever. With regard to economics, he talks about the emergence of the digital platform, such as cryptocurrency markets. I find it absolutely fascinating what he talks about here. So he talks about there was at once the emphasis on the notion of sharing information, creating blockchain-based systems. Many individuals are driven into this new form of economy, either hoping to strike it rich or driven by a sense of excitement that they create something anti-institutional and decentralized. But as the skeptics observe, all these promises oh, actually, there's the emergence of new intermediaries, concentration of Bitcoin mining operations, and perhaps they're only sustainable in the long term if they can get constantly new participants drawn in, yeah, where only the experienced players profit. Politics, I think, is even more interesting what he's got to say about this, but I just leave it now to say it's about how populism is more and more favoured in political life with this. Well, throughout there's this ambivalence, which I think we'll have in the conference, of digital hyperconnectivity, which opens up many new and exciting possibilities, yet at the same time threatens human freedom and flourishing. And there's that thought, well, maybe it's the traditional psychotherapy that can still provide the best antidote to the ills of our digital age. A final book is these advances in online therapy that came out this year. They conclude that online therapy is here to stay. Its legitimacy increased dramatically following the world crisis. And whilst there are limitations, there are advantages. They say that in the coming future, more therapy sessions will be conducted online and more specific research will be carried out about them. Well, today we're going to hear that specific research. We have this program and we have two chairs. In the morning, it's Julia Kane, and in the afternoon, it's O'Neill Brooks. So welcome, and I'm handing over to Julia.